From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello, I'm Alison Mitchell in London and welcome to Stumped. With me from Sydney for the ABC is Brett Sprigg and Charu Sharma for Akashvani is in Dubai this week. Now, cricketers in India often garner global recognition when they do something special. And there may be no current player more deserving of acclaim than 14-year-old Vaibhav Suryavanshi. Now, we've talked about him a number of times here on Stumped, including when he hit his very first ball in the IPL for 6. But his hot start has become a blazing inferno, with him becoming the youngest centurion in all men's T20 professional cricket. But that is not all, because the 100 he smashed was off just 35 balls. Jaw-dropping for anybody, but I mean, at the age of just 14, the great Chris Gale is the only player to have hit a faster century in the 18-year history of the IPL. The result, incidentally, saw Suryavanshi's Rajasthan Royals beat Gujarat Titans by 8 wickets. But Charu, it's the fastest 100 by any Indian in the IPL. Just tell us a little bit more about him and, where could he go from here?
I think all fans of cricket, and certainly Indian fans, are still reeling at what they saw. It was just magnificent. 11 sixes, I think something like 94% of his runs are scored in boundaries. I mean, just phenomenal. And to think that he's only 14. Phenomenal talent. Fearless completely. And of course, coming from a part of India which is not really known for producing lots of cricketers in the past. And, quite a bit of a rural upbringing, really. And the usual stories surrounding success these days of those who come in from other parts of India, where there's been a lot of parental sacrifice, and with the mother waking up at 2, 3 a.m. to make some food for him so that he could, of course, maintain some kind of, diet on his way to practice, and his father giving up his job and getting a little piece of land where he could practice a bit. And these are, heart-wrenching stories about how he's come up. And at that age, I mean, you'd struggle to find his village on a map. It's that small, and for him to have moved up from there into a bigger town and then on to Patna, which is the capital of Bihar, it's just mind-boggling. And the way he takes on, say, somebody like Jofra Archer in the nets, fearless. And
I've heard this, yes.
Completely out of context. But I remember the 2003 World Cup, and there was this young Australian, I think, Spriggy, who was playing for Canada those days, Jim Davison, who leapt out of the crease and smashed the West Indian fast bowlers bowling at whatever, 140 and change, to all parts of the park. I mean, and smiling and enjoying it. Anyway, back to Vaibhav. At only 14, the whole world's, before him. And the fact that he still has a very level head on his shoulders, a credit to his upbringing. He's still very humble and very respectful. No trace of the arrogance that you see sometimes in younger cricketers coming from major cities. So there's a lot of good around him. And I do hope he's looked after well in terms of the obvious riches that are to follow.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Management of somebody so young. I did love the way that when he was eventually bowled by Yorker, which eventually came, he did not want to leave the field, did he? He looked so disappointed. The whole stadium's on their feet. He smashed this record knock, and yet he was utterly sort of downcast to be dismissed. Brett, I mean, the buzz that's been created around him here in the UK is phenomenal. I mean, I've been quizzed by people who I'd say are not into cricket at all, but they've heard about this 14-year-old in the IPL, or their kids have watched on YouTube and they're saying, Mum, Dad, who's this kid? How's he doing it? Has the same sort of buzz been created in Australia?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I remember his name coming up when he played against Australia in some youth tests at under-19 level, and he was apparently 13 then. This would have been last October, and the Aussie bowling attack were all 18 or 19. I mean, that alone, if you've ever been a little kid filling in for your older brother or sister's cricket team facing older, faster, that can be intimidating. But he punted 58 ball 100 at Chepauk that day, and while I took note of that then, I had no way of knowing, none of us did, that we'd be talking about him plundering one of the greatest and fastest hundreds in IPL history. I've been asked during my rounds a few times on the ABC what this all means, and I must admit, I don't fully understand it either. When does he play for India? Even if we wait a few years and he debuts at 18 or 19, which is still very young, is there a chance he plays sooner? Help me out here, Charu, because I don't know what to make of all this. When do we see him play for India?
There's a lot of protectionism as well. And a lot of the seniors have said that, listen, don't fast track him because, yes, there's a Sachin Tendulkar, but there are many other names that are being traced back now who started rather early in the Indian team and unfortunately fizzled. And there is a call now to hold on despite his obvious precocious talent and to not perhaps blood him till he's maybe 18 or 19. Now, you might say from his perspective, if he's playing so well, better than the rest, why not now? But maybe international pressures are different and the IPL is a very different kettle of fish. So I suspect not before he's 18 or 19, which is still a distance away, despite his obvious achievement.
I mean, what of his test potential, Charu? I mean, this is white ball. It's the India T20 side we're talking about initially and ODIs, but red ball cricket, he is playing, isn't he, the longer form, but hasn't had quite the same stunning success, you'd say, so early.
You know, he hasn't played much at all of cricket.
A handful of matches, isn't it, in first class?
We've got to give him a little time. But in some kind of local league match, which is not saying much, back in Bihar, he did get a triple. So, you know, he can play the long game. And, you know, if he's coached properly, where he realizes the difference, which a lot of people lose, by the way, because they play so much white ball cricket, of just being able to leave the ball rather than being hyper aggressive, then he could well be a big red ball star as well. But I think that's for much later. India doesn't play, or a lot of countries don't play that much red ball cricket. And just a short while back on this program, I did say that maybe the younger ones coming up will have less feel and heart for test match cricket. I know it's a shame, but just because they play so much more white ball cricket. So even if he were not to go ahead and start in red ball cricket, I don't think he or his legion of fans will really mind, nor even India, because they've got a lot of other players to choose from. But if he is from the old school, and even till the current generation, they do want to make a mark in red ball cricket as well. And maybe he'll go there, but all in the future, Alison. Much later, I hope.
I mean, it really struck me, actually, seeing who his batting partner was at the other end during this 100. Of course, Yashasvi Jaiswal, who himself was the incredible story of Indian cricket and his test match debut at, relatively young age, but his story of having, made those journeys into Mumbai, sleeping on tents in the Maidan, and then yet it's not very long that another new kid comes on the block and kind of sweeps Jaiswal aside, and he's the new sensation. I mean, that's the depth and the amount of sort of as yet untapped talent which is there in India, Charu, isn't it?
Without question. I think there's already Jaiswal is somebody who's getting a little frustrated not being given bigger roles, perhaps even captaincy, who alone knows. But I think it's an even bigger story, Jaiswal, because of the fact that he uprooted himself from his family and went to this big bad city where he had to, it was very troublesome for him to try and get by. Luckily, he was saved by his coach and so on and so forth. But I don't think Suryavanshi's story is quite so heartbreaking. It's just a phenomenal rise from a very, very small village in India to what he's done. But I think they have a lot of stories to trade, these two, and will certainly become heroes. So many more to come out from the much smaller towns of India, hungry and ready for it and ready to work really hard to get on top.
And it's been interesting, Spriggy, sort of listening to how has he managed, Suryavanshi, to hit this innings, 14. People are saying, is it his power? Is it timing? And I thought Katie Martin on commentary in the moment of it all was very good at sort of trying to help explain to the listener how it's happening. She's noting, the cocked wrists. I've read other commentators looking at the high backlift, and he idolises Brian Lara, which you'd think for his age group, you'd think, well, how much of Brian Lara did he see? He wouldn't have been, alive to watch, born yet to see, the great Brian Lara play. But that's where the wonders of social media and YouTube comes in.
Absolutely, and that's the thing you see in players that aren't probably as physically gifted by way of size and so-called long levers and all the rest of it. It's the timing, it's the placement we see, and we probably don't tend to think about the T20 format as being so kind to players with those attributes. We talk about great timers of the ball in Test cricket and all the rest of it, but absolutely, as Katie Martin identified in the commentary, you mentioned a few examples there. I mean, it just goes to show any player, any age, any size can find the boundary and exude power, even if they probably don't have the same sort of physical presence. It's all about the timing.
Well, I tell you what, though, Vaibhav Suryavanshi isn't the only rising India star at the moment breaking records, because India's women are playing a tri-series against South Africa at the moment. And Pratika Rawal has become the fastest woman ever to reach 500 ODI runs. Now, she's been opening the batting and reached this landmark in just 8 innings, breaking the record of 9 innings that was held by Charlotte Edwards, England's former captain, now coach. She set that record back in 1997, so it stood for a long time. And in those knocks, Rawal has only failed to pass 50 twice, and she made a massive 154 against Ireland back in January. I mean, Charu, tell us a bit more about her story, and do we expect to see her in India's World Cup squad later this year?
The answer to the latter is for sure, because India have an opening problem, and we'll see whether Pratika can solve that. For the moment, she does. But back to her story, she's, of course, not from a small village or any other such rural part of India. She's very much from Delhi and studied in all the better institutions, has a reasonably good upbringing, as it were, and was multi-talented. She played a lot of basketball for her school and went all the way to the national level, came back with a medal as well in one of the junior games. And of course, came a time when her parents and the rest of those said, well, you've got to choose between cricket and basketball. And of course, she'd be delighted that in the Indian context that she chose cricket and did rather well. I think the only cruel blow for the moment in her short career has been the fact that just when she got chosen into the Indian side, which is not easy at all because a lot of women are now playing for their side. So the number is written, the bottom of the pyramid's pretty wide. She wasn't picked up in the WPL. That must have hurt. But she carried on and, of course, has done exceedingly well, as you said, a record breaker earlier in her life. Now, 1 or 2 innings one can understand, but the sustained level for the last 8 innings, now you may say it's too much, but 8 is a lot of innings, for her to have done well continuously is quite phenomenal. She's got a wonderful coach. They talk a lot. And she realized that she was rushing everything to begin with, including her cricket, her speech, everything. So one of the many things that they kind of identified is, Pratika, just slow down. Everything, your thought, your speech, your actions, and she did. So she's a learning kind. She's wanting to improve all the time, and she listens to people around her. She's still very humble. And there's everything wonderful about this young lady. She's only 24, so, a long way to go for her. And I hope she continues to star for India. But the best part is that she's not averse to listening to everybody else and improving all the time and admitting to do so rather than being somewhat introverted, as many cricketers tend to be, saying, well, I'm the big one here. I'm the big shot. So who are you to talk to me? But and she's a wonderful personality as well. So I'm so glad she's doing well.
It's another good story, that's for sure. Well, that was all we've got time for on this week's Stumped. So I'll say thanks to Brett Sprigg and to you, Charu Sharma, and to everyone for listening. And we'll do it again next week. Until then, bye for now.